Welcome to this, the 8,568th edition of the Fireside Chat, live from Djuma in the magnificent Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park. I said that all in one breath. I hope you are all very well and you are most welcome. This is my great friend and colleague Brent Smith, as you know, and I am James, in case you've been hiding under a rock. And we're going to be discussing a number of different things that went on here this week in this magnificent little piece of wilderness that we are privileged to call home. The first, of course, is the magnificent Djuma Pride, minus one lioness, of course, because she was unfortunately went to kitty heaven a little while back there on Torchwood. So it is at the moment four adult lionesses, two sub-adults, and one fairly large now adult male or sub-adult male lion. So we're going to chat about them. Then we're going to talk about Shadow, the 9-year-old female leopard, a magnificent leopard that she is, and her son Sindile, who is now 1 year old, and his father, and her
possible
sort of
father.
husband. Quite. And they are basically, well, we're going to get into that. There's some shenanigans going on here. And then after that, we'll just have a general chat, and if you have any questions at all, please send them through now, #SafariLive and questions@WildEarthTV. Now, as we wait for Scott to arrive, we're going to probably wait for him to come before we chat about the Djuma Pride. Donna from South Carolina, where I have been myself at one stage, wants to know about the bike race that Brent and I were privileged enough to film when we were away on our probably 10 days leave.
10 days,
that
yeah.
we were on. It was a magnificent time, Donna, in the northern section of South Africa into Botswana and southern Zimbabwe in a trans-frontier conservation area. And what that means is the governments of all three countries have come together, agreed to sort of ignore the borders, if you like, and allow free roaming wildlife to move in a greater conservation area. So that's where we were. Brent, what were your general impressions?
Well, it is definitely one of the most beautiful areas I've had the privilege to spend some time in. And even though we were in quite a rush following the cyclists and getting up well before dawn, even earlier than we get up here, to get ahead of the cyclists and set up the shots. I mean, some of the scenery there was magnificent. Those sandstone ridges,
unbelievable.
Bushman paintings, caves, as well as, well, we didn't see too many elephant, but there was a lot of sign of elephant everywhere.
Yes, we were told that we were going to be run over by at least 1,000 elephants, and we saw 4.
And so I got chased by one.
You were chased by one.
While I was on a motorbike.
Yes.
A severely underpowered motorbike, in my opinion.
Now, the reason, of course, that Brent was chased was because he was on a motorbike, and we weren't able to keep up with the cyclists, so we had to have motorcycles. I am an incompetent motorcycle rider, and on my first day nearly wrote myself off, and I wish we had a clip of that.
Yes, I do as well. James did a Superman maneuver, both back legs gone, got a fright, hit full steam on the motorbike and disappeared over a rock, and fortunately when I got over the rock, he was still alive.
Yes, I'm quite glad I was still alive too. Brent is a far more competent motorbike rider, and so he managed to do most of the difficult stuff on his motorbike.
But still managing to fall off once.
So basically the race it's for a very good cause, so that's why I'm going to tell you about it, called Children in the Wilderness, and it's operated by a magnificent safari company called Wilderness Safaris. And Children in the Wilderness runs a number of different programs. One of them is called the Eco Clubs, and that they go into rural schools which are so poor you actually can't believe that learning can take place. But in these schools, the champions of education of rural Africa, which are tireless teachers who are paid sometimes not at all, they go in there and they teach the kids about environmental topics, and the best kids from these eco clubs go off to the lodges that Wilderness and various other people operate, and they go once a year to have a sort of educational 3 or 4 day trip into the wilds. And it's just a wonderful thing to see. I've done some filming of those clubs and of some of the Children in the Wilderness camps, and when the video is done I'll tell you about it. It's probably going to take me 2 or 3 weeks to labour through some of the footage that I managed to shoot. Brent's is much more easy to get through. Mine, of course, is various stages of blurred and offensive, but I will get through it eventually and edit the video together and then we will post it online, and you may watch it should the need arise, should you find yourself especially bored one day, for example.
And some of you guys who follow my Twitter and Instagram accounts will have noticed that a couple of months just before James started, I did put some pictures and little videos and photographs of James and myself filming those eco clubs in the Mukuleki concession in South Africa.
Yes, and you had a question from John in California about your other favorite activity.
Yes, definitely one of my most favorite activities. Safari this evening, that when asked if I had ever lived in Namibia or had been to Namibia, I said I had, and I lived in Namibia for a couple of months, and I worked as a fly fishing guide. And John from California was wondering what I fished for, and I was fishing for tigerfish and nemwe. Tigerfish is obviously a great predatory fish that is a very sought after angling species, and we did only practice catch and release. Not the best eating fish, I'm afraid, very bony, but really powerful sort of apex predator of the fish world on a lot of the rivers in Africa, and we are very difficult to land on fly. And the other fish species we fished for was a nemwe, which has also got another name, a robbie, I think they call it in Zimbabwe, but it's basically, for you guys who know bass fishing and stuff like that, it's a Saranchromis bream species, so it's a large mouth bream species and has similar feeding habits to bass. Is closest, but incredibly beautiful, emerald green with a bright golden breast, but also fantastic fish to fish for. But I spent many happy hours on all the rivers in the Caprivi Strip in Namibia, fishing for various different things.
What is the largest tiger fish you've ever caught, Brent?
My largest tiger fish was 13.25 kilograms on fly, and that was caught in a secret part of Tanzania. And a river in a huge concession that's very seldom fished.
That's about the same size as me. Yes. And thank you for your comment, Valerie, about Brent's hair, which you say is looking unusually tame at the moment. Yes, well,
I can fix that for you, Valerie.
Brent does
buff it up.
He does have salon quality hair. He's a bit like Ron Burgundy in that way. He's very lucky. I, of course, don't have any hair anymore, and that's why you never see me without a hat on. Now, Scott is taking his sweet time to get here, so we're going to go onto the Nkahuma Pride. And we've got a nice clip for you of bits. Do we have a clip of the Nkahuma Pride? Yes,
we do.
We do have a clip of the Nkahuma Pride. We're going to show you a clip of the Nkahuma Pride, and I just suddenly had a mind blank there. And we're going to show them to you when they were separated, and that clip is going to play now.
There are only 5 of the Nkahuma Pride that we can see. Wouldn't it be interesting to know where Junior and one of the other lioness is? Because those are the 2 members of this pride that are missing. I think it's one of the youngest lioness.
Welcome back, everyone, and we've caught up with Junior and one of the Nkahuma lionesses as they've crossed from Arathusa back into Djuma. So definitely from their behavior so far, well, not so much Junior's, but the lioness, they are looking for the rest of the pride. And as 2 leopards crossed out, we got 2 lions in return that crossed in. So a really good morning so far. See how Junior's testing the air there, trying to listen, or listening and smelling for possibly the other members of the pride.
So that was the Nkahuma Pride, marvellously split up as they were. Now, I don't think that was very marvellous for them, but Brent, you found them yesterday morning, correct?
Well, it's interesting. Scott found the 5 individuals just to the west, actually probably about 500 meters over my left shoulder here, on the edge of the quarantine clearings. And I was off chasing mating leopards, and they unfortunately passed off to the south of us, and I got a report from one of the guides from Arathusa who said there were 2 Nkahuma lions on our touch rugby field. So I definitely decided I needed to investigate, not only for the lions but for our safety while playing touch rugby. And we rushed off there, and we happened to just get there as they were crossing out of Arathusa back onto Djuma. And we followed them, and you could just see the way they were looking. It was Junior and another adult lioness, and they were looking around and listening and smelling, so definitely trying to reconnect with the rest of the pride. And they weren't calling, which is quite interesting. And we all we've discussed this a little bit, and we have quite a plausible theory about why they're not vocalizing at all at the moment, and that's probably to try avoid the Birmingham boys. But I'll let James chat a little bit more about that.
I mean, before they were found here, if I'm not mistaken, they were all on Nkoro, which is just south and east of where we are now. And I think they were on a kill, and they were chased off by the Birmingham boys, and they split up. And I suspect they split up, and I might be wrong here, but I think that they split up because Junior is probably feeling a lot more pressure than the lionesses. So he and possibly one of the young lionesses, not the sub-adults though.
No, it was an adult.
You said one of the younger adults headed off, and they went much further away than the rest of the four or the other five went. So we think it's probably got a lot to do with the pressure that the Birmingham boys are exerting. And as we've said, the Birmingham boys are in a state of flux. They are busy taking over bits and pieces of this place, and their blood is up. Testosterone is coursing through their blood all the time, and so they're not nice to be around. Even if you happen to be a female lioness, it is a bit of an issue. And then this afternoon, obviously, magnificently, the man who is appearing on screen as we speak found them reunited.
Yes, Scotty.
Good evening. Hello, Brent.
Welcome to the
Hello, James. Thank you very much. Very nice, very nice.
And so Scott and Stefan did a lot of tracking while we weren't on drive this morning, in between drives. And Scotty, you eventually found the Nkahuma Pride reunited?
Yes, sadly not personally found them, but they had been found. But I think our report to the Arathusa guides from in between drives, I sent them a message that their tracks were heading towards the dam, and that may have, I like to think, led them to their position faster. But I don't think they had been located in the morning. And very happy to see all 7 of them having reunited. It would have been interesting to know when exactly last night they did manage to reunite, but it probably wasn't too long after they took off after those buffalo.
So just after we went off air yesterday, we heard buffalo stampeding very close to where I left the Nkahumas, and then they turned around and then followed the direction from what we can see from the tracks, and what we heard from the other guides who were still out, towards where Junior and the other lioness were.
So that's the lions, everybody. State of flux. We don't really know how it's going to play out. The Matimbas were seen south of here today, and what they're doing there, I think they're probably asking for a lot of trouble, to be honest. So we're going to move on from the lions and move on to some smaller spotted cats. And the clip we're going to show you now is of a giraffe, which isn't a cat at all. And just below the giraffe you will notice the magnificent shadow, and that clip is going to play for you now.
What have you seen there? This body language is looking a little bit better. I'm just going to continue driving while I continue to... Oh yes, it's a leopard! Look at this! Incredible! No ways! Not easy for Andrew to frame it because the giraffe's so long. This is awesome. These are soft contact calls now that she's letting off, trying to call Sandile. She's getting frustrated that she can't find him, but I'm sure it won't be long until he does come. Wow! He was, what does she see? Oh, look who it is! Finally! He's here! Here he comes! This is incredible! This is gonna be so awesome! This is too good! Can you believe it? Well, wasn't that an incredible afternoon spent with leopards? We got really lucky thanks to that giraffe, and it was quite funny actually, because I was driving around hoping to find Sindile, and Nikki got a hold of me on the radio from Final Control saying she needed some content, and at that moment the giraffe appeared. And we thought, well, this is perfect. We don't get to see giraffe very often, especially now they haven't been as numerous as they can be. And we enjoyed a sighting of this big bull giraffe, and we were discussing the likelihood of giraffe actually helping to find animals like leopard and cheetah as well as lion by staring intently in one direction, because he was doing that, but he was just chewing on the cud and he wasn't really looking at anything until about a few minutes or so after we had discussed the likelihood of giraffe finding leopard or cheetah and actually being very relaxed with those two compared to lion. The giraffe took a few steps forward, very intent on something, and then Shadow popped up. And it was incredible how close the giraffe was to Sindile. I'm sure a lot of you, to Shadow, and I'm sure a lot of you were quite surprised that even when she was letting out her loud rasping call, looking for Sindile, the giraffe didn't even flinch. It was actually scratching its bottom the whole time that the leopard was on the termite mound. Now, some interesting behavior within that sighting that we've discussed is that she initially started contact calling, which you would have seen the initial soft wow, wow kind of calls, and then after she had tried that for about 10 or 15 minutes and realized that Sindile was not in the immediate area, she started rasping, which is the much louder soaring noise like that you heard.
Come on, you do it better.
And I know, but I didn't want to. This is Brent's favorite trick, so I didn't want to outshine him here. But actually, Brent, you've also seen her rasping form. It's not something that happens often. It's mainly usually the contact call, but you have seen that happening before.
Yeah, a very similar situation. At that sort of Gari signboard spot where we found them quite often, he was left there and we went back looking and she popped up and was calling and calling.
Very deep.
Yes.
Very deep. And do you think that is pretty normal, or do you think it had something to do with her estrus cycle coming on?
Well, the fact
Certainly
that it
the
happened with
behaviour.
Brent previously makes me lean to think it was just that he wasn't in that immediate area where she knew she left him.
He's being
And
a
their
naughty
behaviour
boy.
together, when they were together, was that pretty normal?
That wasn't normal.
Yeah.
That changed. She got quite aggressive towards him towards the end of the time they spent together. And interestingly enough, it wasn't after they had spent very long together. After about 15 minutes, they hadn't even moved very far, considering that they were together that morning, only 12 hours earlier. She got quite aggravated with him, like a mother would get with an 18-month to 2-year-old cub that she's trying to get rid of. So possibly the fact that she is coming into season certainly does lead towards that.
We got an interesting question from Dennis in Lakeville. And Dennis, interesting one, and it is certainly around about the sort of subjects that we've been talking about while we've been looking at Sindile. And you'd like to know, obviously Sindile is now on his own again. You've just seen him on his own.
Yep.
I've spent probably 6 hours with him in the last 2 days. And you'd like to know, when she eventually comes back to him, hopefully she will she notice his condition and adjust her behavior accordingly and maybe feed him a bit more than she would normally? Dennis, I don't know what you guys think. I don't think that there's necessarily a cognizant noticing of his condition, and whether or not she'll feed him more or less because he's looking a bit skinny, I don't know. But as I've said a few times on Drive, he's not thin.
No.
I think he's killing quite a lot on his own.
Yeah.
And I think after all the mating, Shadow's probably going to be the skinny one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not easy being a mating leopard, I'll tell you.
Yeah, we nearly got to see her make another kill this afternoon. It would have been the first confirmed squirrel kill. It was absolutely awesome. We let him walk quite far down the road, and you could see he was using the fact that the road was slightly lower lying than the terrain up to the right, and eventually pounced off after something, and we sped up. The next thing was up a tree after the squirrel, not very successfully. They didn't get anywhere near it, but it made for some great viewing. And I think a lot of the time, even with older predators, not just the cubs, hunts are unsuccessful. So we can't just assume that he's not a good hunter, because how often do we watch all of the adults, both lions and leopards, hunting unsuccessfully?
Yeah. Right, well, that
Please send them through now, hashtag Safari Live, and
been
question.
hard at work trying to make him a sibling or two in the next few months we might be lucky, and Sindile might have a small brother and sister to play with. Or eat. Yes, not mention that. And so we're going to show you a clip of Tingana and Shadow in the throes of passion, and the clip is going to play now.
Look at this! Can you believe it? Shadow's trying to seduce Tingana into mating with her. Watch closely. Can you believe it? We've just got you, and within seconds of arriving, we've got to see them mating. He's probably double her size and weight. How beautiful is this? It's not a sight we get to see very often, and it's actually the first time that I've managed to be able to share with you the incredible sights of leopards mating. Welcome back, everyone. Just in time to catch the end of them mating again.
Isn't that unbelievable? Gee whiz. People do.
Wasn't that absolutely incredible? And one of the amazing things is all three of us got to experience it over that period that they were on Djuma, which is really special. Quite often we have a little bit of jealousy, like, oh, James has got mating leopards, oh, Scott's, and what have I got? I've got a marula tree. But fortunately, all three of us happen to be able to experience that. And we've got a question from Julia in Houston, who is wondering, the fact that Shadow is mating so soon, while she's still got a dependent cub, is this possibly the reason why she's lost cubs in the past, or because she's lost cubs in the past, she's already come into her estrus cycle again? Julia, to be completely honest, I can only theorize on this, and it is quite an interesting discussion that I think we've all had sort of around the campfire at night after drive, and it is very unusual. I mean, normally when I've seen female leopards be independent at a year, just over a year, but never a male sort of 18 months, and it could maybe she's got a hormonal imbalance or something that we don't know about, but it is a very, very interesting scenario, and it'll be very interesting once she's finished mating to see if she goes back to caring for Sindile or abandons him because she's been impregnated. And there's never a guarantee that she is going to become pregnant from this mating with Tingana, and maybe it's a false estrus. So these are all these questions we can't actually answer, but they're out there, and only time will answer some of them.
And I mean, as I've got myself into quite a lot of trouble before by saying that I thought your Shadow wasn't a very good mum because she's lost 6 litters of cubs, and I wondered if, having seen this, Scott's disagreed with me, of course, but I wondered if it wasn't because that she is coming into these early estrus cycles that she is losing her cubs.
I think it's a very, very plausible argument, and it's probably not something, unfortunately for us, not having spent the last 6-7 years in this area, that we can answer definitely. But it might be worth chatting to the other guides at the next rangers meeting and finding if she is still mating when she has cubs.
I think we would have heard if that was the case, because it's quite abnormal. I think it's not something that I've ever heard of, and it's most typically for me hyena, lion, or most often male leopard that kill cubs. And she could have been in a buffer zone where there were several males, possibly even a few stray young males who won't even be trying to acquire territory but will still kill a cub that's not theirs. Kind of like Djuma in quarantine, you know, it'll still be a couple of years before they're dominant, but there's nothing stopping them trying to kill cubs that they did not father, even from before they are dominant themselves. So it is something worth definitely chatting to the other guides about. And we've got a bit of a different question that's just come through now, off the topic, but that's great, and that's what's wonderful about being around the fire. You can fire some slightly different questions at us. And this one's from Reese. Good evening, and good to have you with us. Reese is asking, did we all know one another before we started working here at Wild Earth? And yes,
we did.
We did.
But unusually.
Yes.
I knew Scott. I was his rugby coach at one stage when he was, you were 14, I suppose.
I must be 13 or 14, yeah.
I was his rugby coach. I was a strapping young man of 22 years old at that stage. Brent was actually at the same school, and I coached Brent's brother in the same team. But I didn't know Brent then, and then I met Brent later at Londolozi, just down the road here. So we did kind of know each other around and about the place.
Yep.
And then you guys had worked a little bit. Did you work together?
We knew each other from school.
Yes, so Brent was a few years older than me, as you can tell, and we still knew one another at school because we both had a very keen interest in the bush, and our school actually had an incredible wilderness area on it, so we used to go exploring there together. And then we worked at lodges right next door to one another in the Sabi Sands. Brent actually helped me get the job at the lodge where I started, so thanks for that, Brent. And
My pleasure, Scotty. And then Scott helped me get the job here, so it's one of those things.
And Brent helped me get the job here too. Right. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for this week. I'm going to play you a little song. It's called The Crossing, and it's the chorus is in Zulu, and it goes Osiyeza, Osiyeza, sizofika webaba noma, lapho sizobeka phansi konke ukuhlupheka. Isn't that a nice?
It is very nice.
And what it's about basically is the crossing that the Zulu people believe you make when you die to the land of your ancestors. So it's a very beautiful song. It's not the most cheerful song in the world, but I just thought it was so lovely, and it's a lovely kind of Zulu song to sing and very African song. So that's it, and that's it from us this week, and we will see you tomorrow on the Dawn Safari, wherever you happen to find yourself in the world, perhaps at work, sneaking away a peek at us. Keep at it. It's a good way to do it. See you later. Through all the years that eat away at every breath that I take, through all the nights I've lain alone in someone else's dream away, all the words in truth that were spoken, that the wind has blown away. Oh, it's only you that remains with me here, clear as the light of day. Osiyeza, sizofika webaba noma. Osiyeza, siyabona nomhlaba, siyawela laphesheya, kulezontaba ezimnyama, lapho sobeka phansi konke kuhlupeka. Speak good, I didn't know you knew it.
This is a fair bit.
I think we'll have a bit of a louder chorus next time. Here we go. A punch-drunk man in a downtown bar takes a beating without making a sound. His swollen eyes, he sways and he smiles, cause no one can put him down. Inside him a boy, so to his father, for a sign or an approving eye. Oh, it's funny how those once so close are now gone, still so affect our life. Osiyeza, sizofika webaba noma. Osiyeza, siyabona lomhlaba, siyawela laphesheya, kulezontaba ezimnyama, lapho sobeka phansi konke kuhlupeka.
siyeza siyagula lomhlaba siyawela laphesheya kulezo ntaba